We've had reports of pickpocketing. You fit the description.
I didn't take anything.
Then why were you standing near people's
Sir,
bags?
I'm talking to him. It's always the same type hanging around when Wallace disappeared. He hasn't left my side.
I
He
didn't
hasn't
do
left my
anything.
side. Sir, I'm talking to him. Funny how it's always your type, something goes missing. It's always the same type hanging around
He
when
hasn't
Wallace
left my
disappeared.
side.
So I'm
Funny how it's always your type standing nearby when something goes missing.
It's always
And why were you standing near people's bags?
Axon Body 3. Timestamp, the 14th of May, 2026. 15 hours, 42 minutes and 21 seconds. Officer, Pace, BHATIAN2. Mall corridor, Saturday afternoon. Level 1 of a mid-sized American shopping mall in the suburbs. Overhead fluorescent lights, bleached white by retail standard. The kind of brightness that makes everything look clean, whether it is or not. Weekend foot traffic, steady but not packed. Families with strollers, older couples walking slowly, teenagers in clusters. A man eating a soft pretzel from a paper bag. A woman on her phone reading something and laughing to herself. Normal. Completely and entirely normal. The kind of Saturday that exists in 10,000 malls across this country simultaneously. The kind of afternoon that shouldn't be memorable. The bodycam angle locks steady. The officer's footsteps are audible, heavy, purposeful. The specific rhythm of a man who has decided where he is going before he has looked carefully at what is there. The camera swings left past a pretzel kiosk, past a woman pushing a stroller with twins asleep inside, past a teenage boy explaining something with his hands to a teenage girl who is clearly not convinced. Past a bench where an elderly woman is resting with shopping bags arranged around her feet like a small fort. Normal. All of it normal. Then it stops. There, near the bench outside a clothing store, a 10-year-old boy. Gray zip-up hoodie. Jeans. White sneakers, with one lace slightly looser than the other. Backpack slung over his left shoulder. Worn on one strap the way kids wear them when they're not at school. More casual. More comfortable. His hands are loose at his sides. He is not looking at the people passing. He is not watching bags or pockets or purses. He is looking toward the far end of the corridor, toward the bookstore. The way you look when you are waiting for someone specific, and you keep checking the same direction, because you know that is the direction they will come from. He is standing, just standing. Officer, Pace. Hey, you, stop right there. The boy turns. His eyes don't harden. They don't go defensive or closed or wary in the way they would if he were guilty of something and recognized the consequences. They widen. Genuinely. The widening of a person who did not expect to be addressed and is trying to understand why they are being addressed. Marcus. Sir? Officer. Pace. We've had a theft report. Wallet missing from this corridor. You fit the description. Marcus. I didn't take anything, sir. Officer. Pace. Then explain why you've been standing here. Near people. Watching. Marcus. I'm waiting for my grandfather. He's in the bookstore. He goes every Saturday. Officer. Pace. The bookstore. Again, the repetition. The officer doesn't say it as a question. He says it the way people repeat things when they are not accepting the answer, not because the answer is implausible, but because they have already moved past the point of listening. They are now managing. Marcus. Yes, sir. End of the hall. He'll be out in a few minutes. Officer. Pace. What's his name? Marcus. Raymond Carter. Officer. Pace. And he just left you standing out here alone. Marcus. I didn't want to go in. I've already read everything I want in that store. The officer looks at the boy, at the backpack, at the hoodie, at the bench behind him, and the passing crowd, and the spacing between the boy and the nearest shop entrance. The body cam sees all of it from the officer's angle. The audience can watch him build a case out of ordinary furniture, a bench, a hoodie, a waiting child, and find it suspicious because he has already decided it is. Officer Pace, I'm going to need you to stay right here and talk to me. Marcus. I'm not going anywhere, sir. I told you, I'm waiting. Officer. Pace. Funny how it's always the same type hanging around when something goes missing. Silence. Not dramatic silence. Not movie silence. Real silence. The kind that happens in a crowd when one voice says something that lands wrong, and the people nearby hear it and don't know what to do with it. 3 people within earshot. A woman with a shopping bag. A man carrying a coffee. A teenager who was looking at his phone and has stopped looking at his phone. They all heard it. Marcus heard it. He is 10 years old. He has heard versions of this sentence before. Not always spoken, sometimes just implied in the way a store clerk watches him differently than his white classmates when they walk in together, in the way certain adults' eyes track him in certain places. He is 10, and he already carries the particular exhaustion of a child who has been taught by the world to be careful. He does not respond to the sentence. His grandfather told him not to. Stay calm. Don't argue. Wait for me. Before we go any further, drop your state in the comments below. Let's see how far across America this documentary reaches. The body cam captures everything. The mall tile, the passing feet, the steady ordinary hum of a Saturday that is no longer ordinary. And at the far end of Corridor 7, barely visible through the foot traffic, a door. The bookstore, still closed, but not for long. Age 10, 4th grade, honor roll, 3 consecutive semesters. The kind of student who finishes his homework on Friday afternoon so the weekend is completely free, not because he was told to, but because he figured out early that it worked better that way. His teacher, Ms. Okonkwo, described him in his last report card as exceptionally curious and remarkably self-possessed for his age. She didn't know how right the second part of that description was until she read about what happened in the mall. He loves outer space. Not casually, deeply. He has a poster of the James Webb Telescope images on his ceiling, and he falls asleep looking at the pillars of creation like other kids fall asleep looking at sports stars. He wants to know how far away things are. He wants to know what came before the universe and what comes after. He asks questions in science class that his teacher has to look up before the next class, and she doesn't mind because they are good questions. He also loves basketball cards. Not for their monetary value, he barely knows about that, but for the statistics on the back. He studies the numbers. He can tell you a player's three-point percentage across 5 seasons and explain why it changed and what it tells you about how the team around him changed. He is 10 years old. He is doing data analysis for fun. His grandfather has been taking him to this mall every Saturday since he was 5. Bookstore first, that is the rule. Then lunch. Then, if there's time, they walk the whole mall once from end to end, and his grandfather tells him things. About cases he presided over. About decisions he made. About the law, and why it matters, and what happens to people when it fails them. Marcus doesn't always understand all of it. But he listens, and some of it lands in him, and stays there, including this. If a police officer ever stops you, Marcus, stay calm. Don't argue. Don't run. Don't raise your voice. You have rights, and I will be there to help you use them. But first, stay calm and wait for me. He is waiting, 67 years old. Born in Birmingham, Alabama, in 1959, the same year the Supreme Court ruled in Boynton versus Virginia that segregation in interstate travel facilities was unconstitutional. He grew up in the specific American air of that era, understanding from childhood that the law was both the most powerful tool available to his people and the most weaponized instrument against them. That tension never left him. It became his life's work. His grandfather was a sharecropper. His father was a high school principal who read law books by lamplight after dinner because he couldn't afford law school but believed that understanding the law was itself a form of power. Raymond Carter was the first person in his family to attend law school. He was third in his class. He clerked for a federal circuit court judge who told him on his last day, "Raymond, you are going to spend your career fighting for people who need the law to actually work. I hope you are ready for that." He said he was. He spent 31 years proving it. He is not loud. He has never needed to be loud. In a courtroom, the loudest person in the room is almost never the most powerful one. He learned that early, and he never forgot it. When Judge Carter spoke from the bench, the room went quiet, not because of volume, but because of the specific quality of his attention. He listened like someone who intended to remember everything. And he did. He retired 3 years ago. His wife Delia passed 18 months before that. He still wears dark suits because she used to call him the last man in America who still dresses like he respects the room. He keeps doing it because it keeps her close. Every Saturday morning he picks up Marcus. They go to the mall, the bookstore first. He gives Marcus 30 minutes to browse while he takes 45. Then they compare what they found, and he always buys whatever the boy is looking at, even if it costs more than he expected. Then lunch. Then the walk. He came out of the bookstore today with 2 books in a paper bag, and his grandson standing in front of a uniformed officer in the middle of a Saturday afternoon, and every year of every case he ever presided over arrived in his body simultaneously and settled into a very specific, very controlled, very dangerous kind of calm. 14 years on the force. He joined at 24, right out of 2 years of community college and a year working loss prevention at a retail chain. Experience that, his training officer noted at the time, gave him a useful instinct for spotting behavior patterns. That phrase, behavior patterns, it has followed him through 14 years without ever being examined carefully enough. He has 2 commendations. One for disarming a man in a domestic disturbance without firing his weapon. One for pulling a woman from a car after an accident on the interstate. He is not a coward. He is not incompetent. He has genuinely helped people. He also has 3 internal complaints. One for aggressive language during a traffic stop. One for conducting a search that was later ruled without proper cause. The case was dropped, the complaint closed. One for a comment made to a black teenager outside a convenience store that the teenager's mother reported, and 2 witnesses corroborated. All 3 reviewed. All 3 closed. No formal discipline. He is not the villain of a movie. He is something harder to fix than a movie villain. A man who has been doing something wrong for long enough that it no longer feels wrong. It feels like an experience. It feels like instinct. It feels like 14 years of pattern recognition that he trusts more than paperwork. He is about to meet a man who will tell him, very quietly, very specifically, and entirely on camera, exactly what that pattern recognition actually is. 14 minutes before the body cam footage begins, in the security office on the east side of level 1, 3 people are looking at a monitor. The security office is small. It smells like coffee and the faint chemical edge of the cleaning product they use on the monitors. There are 8 screens arranged in a grid, each one showing a different camera angle from somewhere in the mall. A food court, 2 entrances, the parking structure elevator, several corridor feeds. Security Supervisor Henry Marsh, 51, standing with his arms crossed. 2 guards, Devontae, 26, and Patricia, 44, seated at the console. Marsh's call came in about 4 minutes ago. The victim is a male, 50s, and says his wallet was in his back right pocket. Lastly, remember having it at the coffee cart near the south entrance. I walked to the clothing store on Corridor 7 and reached for it at checkout. Gone. Devontae, amount? Marsh, about 200 cash, 3 cards. He's upset. Patricia, any camera angle on it? Marsh, that's the problem. The corridor 7 feet has a blind spot between the coffee cart and the store entrance. About 40 feet of no coverage. Whatever happened, if anything happened, it was in that window. Devontae, victim gives a description? Marsh, reading from notepad, young, dark hoodie. Silence for a moment. Not the silence of something dramatic. The silence of people who recognize that a description like that is essentially no description at all, but must be treated as one because protocol requires it. Patricia, that's half the mall. Marsh, I know. I'm calling it anyway. Officer Pace is nearby. He picks up the radio. Let us sit with the description for a moment. Because this is where the story actually begins. Not at the bench where Marcus is standing. Not at the bookstore where his grandfather is reading the back cover of a book about constitutional history. It begins here, in a description that is so vague it could apply to dozens of people currently walking level 1 of this mall. Young, dark hoodie. The security system, reviewed later as part of the formal complaint investigation, would identify 41 individuals on level 1 at the time of the report who matched that description. 41. Of those, 11 were within range of Corridor 7. Of those 11, 1 was a college student returning a pair of jeans. 1 was a 35-year-old woman who'd come from a yoga class and hadn't changed. 1 was a mall employee on break. 1 was a 13-year-old girl shopping with her mother. And 1 was a 10-year-old boy standing at a bench waiting for his grandfather. The description did not say black. The victim, when interviewed later, said he hadn't actually seen anyone near him and couldn't identify anyone specifically. He had just noticed his wallet missing. He gave a general description of people he had vaguely seen in the area. Young. Dark hoodie. It was, he admitted, not much to go on. Officer Pace took the call. He was already near Corridor 7. The narrator pauses here, because this is the hinge point. The thin place in the story where everything that follows either had to happen or didn't. A description comes in. A man receives it. And now everything depends on what that man does with the space between young, dark hoodie and the actual human being he is about to approach. Does he fill that space with evidence, with observation, with the specific, articulable facts required by law? Or does he fill it with something else? We are about to find out. A system that substitutes assumptions for evidence does not find the guilty. It manufactures them. Bodycam, Corridor 7. Marcus has been at the bench for 16 minutes. He has counted the ceiling tiles in the section above him, 22. He has watched a toddler escape from his father 3 times and get caught 3 times. He has checked the bookstore door 11 times. He is bored in the peaceful way of a child who is used to waiting for someone they trust completely. The footsteps approach. He turns. Officer Pace, you've been here a while. Marcus, about 15 minutes, sir. Maybe a little more. Officer Pace, you waiting for somebody? Marcus, my grandfather. He's in the bookstore. He always goes on Saturdays. Officer Pace, what's your name? Marcus Carter. Officer Pace, how old are you, Marcus? Marcus, 10. Pace nods. He looks at the backpack. At the bench. At the distance between the bench and the nearest shop entrance. Officer Pace, we had a theft report come in. This area, wallet missing. You were in the area during the window. Marcus, I didn't take anything, sir. I've been standing right here. Officer, Pace. Standing right here. For 15 minutes. Marcus. Yes, sir. Officer, Pace. Not going into any stores. Not meeting anyone. Just standing. Marcus. I'm waiting for my grandfather. Officer, Pace. You said that. Do you have any ID on you? Marcus. I'm 10, sir. I don't have an ID. This is worth pausing on. A 10-year-old boy being asked for identification. He doesn't have an ID because he is 10 years old. And children do not carry identification because they are children. And in a free country, a child standing in a public corridor should not need to produce documentation to justify their presence. This is not a border crossing. This is a shopping mall on a Saturday. Officer, Pace. Anybody who can vouch for you? Marcus. My grandfather. He'll be out any minute. Officer, Pace. Anybody here right now? Marcus. No, sir. He's in the bookstore. Officer, Pace. After a pause, I'm going to need you to open that backpack for me. And here it is. The line. The moment when what could have been a conversation reveals itself as something else. Not a conversation. A procedure. Not an inquiry. A search. And it is worth stating clearly and without equivocation what Officer Pace does not have at this moment to justify this request. He does not have a witness who identified Marcus. He does not have surveillance footage. He does not have any observable behavior that constitutes reasonable suspicion beyond standing near people in a mall corridor, which describes, again, every single person in the building. He does not have probable cause. He does not have a Terry stop standard met. He has a vague description, an assumption, and 14 years of habit. Marcus. Sir, I didn't take anything. My backpack has my library book and my school stuff. Officer. Pace. Then you have nothing to worry about. Open the bag. Marcus. My grandfather said I don't have to open my bag without a reason. Pace's posture shifts. Barely, but the body cam catches it. A straightening. A slight forward lean. The body language of a man who expected one thing and received another. Officer. Pace. Your grandfather said that. Marcus. Yes, sir. Officer. Pace. Your grandfather taught you a lot of things about talking to police? Marcus. He taught me my rights, sir. There is a cluster of people nearby who have slowed to watch. 4, then 6. The woman with the phone has it out, but is not yet recording. The older man, James Whitfield, 71, retired schoolteacher, father of 3, grandfather of 7, has stopped walking entirely and is watching with the particular attention of a man who recognizes what he is seeing because he has seen versions of it before. He is not intervening, but he is memorizing. The Fourth Amendment does not exist to protect the guilty. It exists because the founders understood that power, given a warrant to search freely, will search until it finds what it is looking for, or decides it found it. Officer Pace. Here's what I know, Marcus. A theft was reported. This corridor. Wallet gone. You matched the description given to us. You've been stationary in this area for the entire window. Now you're declining to cooperate with a simple request. You understand how that looks? Marcus. I understand how you're describing it, sir, but I didn't do anything. Officer Pace. The wallet didn't walk away on its own. Marcus. No, sir, but I didn't take it. Officer Pace. And I have no way to verify that unless you let me look in that bag. Marcus. My grandfather will be here in a minute, and he can help me. Officer Pace. Your grandfather isn't here, son. I'm here. And we need to sort this out. Son again. The word doing double work. Affectionate surface. Diminishing intention. The boy is not his son. The word is being used to establish hierarchy. To remind the child that the adult in this situation is the officer, and the child is the one who needs to comply. It is not a cruel word, exactly. It is a controlling one. The crowd around this interaction has now grown to approximately 12 people. Nobody has been asked to move along. Nobody is intervening. They are doing what crowds in America typically do when they witness something that feels wrong but isn't violent. They watch. They accumulate. They create a perimeter of attention. The woman with the phone, her name is Cheryl. She's 43. She works as an insurance adjuster, and she will later provide the most complete bystander recording of the incident, has begun recording. She holds the phone casually, screen angled toward the officer and the boy, the way people do when they want to document something but haven't yet decided whether they are willing to be seen doing it. James Whitfield, the retired schoolteacher, has moved closer. He is now approximately 8 feet from the bench. He has not said anything. He is just there, solid, watching, present. Sometimes that is the most powerful thing a bystander can offer. Officer Pace. Look, we can do this the easy way. You open the bag, I check. We find nothing. I apologize, and you go wait for your grandfather. Or we do this the other way. I call this formally. We take you to the security office, We wait for your grandfather there, and this becomes a whole process. Your choice. Two choices. The architecture of coercion, disguised as options. In both scenarios, the boy is guilty of something. In option 1, he clears himself through submission. In option 2, the submission is compelled through a more formal process. The possibility that the entire premise is wrong, that there is no reason to suspect this boy at all, is not offered as an option. Because Pace has already moved past that. In his mind, the question is not whether Marcus took the wallet. The question is how to confirm it. Marcus, quietly, steadily. My grandfather said if this ever happened to wait for him and not to do anything alone. A 10-year-old boy, standing at a bench in a shopping mall, following instructions given to him by someone who loved him enough to prepare him for exactly this. Not with fear, with strategy, with knowledge. He plants both feet on the polished tile. He looks at the officer. He waits, and at the end of the corridor, 38 feet away, a door opens. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision that something else matters more. At 10 years old, Marcus Carter decided his grandfather's instructions mattered more than an officer's demand. That decision was correct. It was also, quietly, heroic. Before the door opens, there is one more move. Pace looks at the growing crowd. He registers Cheryl's phone. He registers Whitfield's proximity. He registers the half-circle of people who are watching this, with the specific expression of people who have not yet decided this is wrong enough to intervene, but have already decided it doesn't look right. Officer Pace. Let's step over here. Away from the traffic. Give us some room to talk. Marcus, I want to stay here. My grandfather knows where I am. Officer Pace. I'm not asking you to go far. Just step over here, where it's quieter. Marcus. I'd rather stay where I am, sir. Officer Pace. Marcus. I'm asking you as a courtesy. We can have a calm conversation, without an audience. Without an audience. Let's be precise about what this means. Without the woman recording. Without the retired schoolteacher watching. Without the dozen people who have created an involuntary accountability structure around this interaction, simply by being present and paying attention. The officer is not suggesting this for the boy's comfort. He is suggesting it because interactions without witnesses are different interactions. The weight of a badge lands differently when no one is watching. Marcus. My grandfather told me to stay where I was so he could find me. This answer is airtight. It cannot be argued without the officer revealing that he is asking the boy to prioritize the officer's convenience over the specific safety instruction given by the boy's caregiver. Pace recognizes this. He pauses. The door at the end of the corridor opens. It opens, and a man walks through it, and the story changes completely. The bookstore door opens at precisely 15 hours 43 minutes and 7 seconds, according to the mall's internal timestamp system, which will be subpoenaed as part of the formal complaint investigation and corroborated against the bodycam footage to establish the exact sequence of events. A tall man walks out. Dark navy suit, pressed. White shirt, deep blue tie. American flag pin on the left lapel. The quiet patriotism of a man who spent his career serving the ideals of his country and sees no contradiction between that service and this moment. Paper bag under his right arm. 2 books inside. His reading for the week. He is not hurrying. He never hurries. He has walked at this pace, measured, deliberate, the pace of a man who knows where he is going and trusts that he will arrive, for 67 years. Urgency is for people who haven't figured out yet that composure is faster. He sees the cluster of people from 50 feet away. His eyes move across the group the way a practiced legal mind moves across a scene, quickly, cataloging, assigning weight to each element. The woman with the phone. The older man positioned close. The ring of watchers. The uniform at the center. The small gray hoodie. The paper bag does not drop. His breathing does not change. His stride does not break. He simply adjusts his course 2 degrees to the left, directly toward his grandson, and covers the 50 feet between them with the unhurried certainty of someone arriving exactly where they planned to be. The crowd parts. Not because he pushes through it, because of the specific quality of his movement, the bearing of a man who has entered rooms where the stakes were life and freedom and the future of law itself and has always walked to the front. Marcus, barely audible, the kind of exhale that carries an entire emotional weight in 4 syllables. Grandpa. Judge Carter reaches Marcus. His right hand comes to rest on the boy's left shoulder. Firm. Warm. The hand says things words would take longer to say. I am here. You are not alone. I see what is happening. I am going to handle it. You are safe. He looks at Officer Pace. Officer Pace. Sir, I need you to step back. I'm in the middle of... Judge Carter. You are in the middle of questioning my grandson. Not a question. A statement, delivered at a volume that is precisely as loud as it needs to be and no louder. which means it carries, in the particular acoustics of a shopping mall corridor, to every person within 30 feet. Delivered with the vocal control of a man who has spent 3 decades ensuring that every word he said in a courtroom was heard and remembered and meant. Officer Pace stops talking. For the first time since this encounter began, Officer Pace stops talking. The mall does not go quiet. Malls cannot fully go quiet. There is always the escalator and the music from a store and a child somewhere and the PA system and the white noise of 100 conversations. But in Corridor 7, at 15 hours 43 minutes and 22 seconds, the people who have gathered stop their individual conversations. They stop and they listen in the way that people listen when something has shifted and they can feel the shift even if they can't yet name it. Judge Carter, to Marcus, not breaking eye contact with Pace, "Are you all right?" Marcus, "Yes, sir." Judge Carter, "Did you say or do anything other than what I told you to do?" Marcus, "No, sir. I stayed where I was. I didn't open my bag. I waited for you." Judge Carter, "Good." He looks at Pace now. Fully. With the same attention he gave witnesses on the stand for 31 years. Not hostile, not warm, simply completely present. The kind of attention that communicates, "I am going to hear exactly what you say, and I am going to remember it, and it is going to matter." Judge Carter, "Officer, I would like to understand what has occurred here, clearly. Specifically, please." Officer Pace, "Sir, we received a theft report in this corridor. A wallet." Judge Carter, "Was my grandson identified by a witness?" Officer Pace, "He matched the..." Judge Carter, "Was my grandson identified by a witness who observed him commit or appear to commit the reported theft? Yes or no?" Pace pauses. The pause lasts approximately 3 seconds. In bodycam footage, 3 seconds of silence is a very long time. Officer Pace, "He matched the description provided." Judge Carter, "What was the description?" Officer Pace, "Young. Dark hoodie." Judge Carter does not look around the corridor. He does not gesture at the other people in dark hoodies, visible from where they are standing. He does not need to. Every person within earshot is doing that mental math on his behalf and arriving at the same answer simultaneously. A description that could apply to 41 people becomes the legal basis for questioning one specific child, and the selection of that child is left, in the gap between the description and the person, to the officer's judgment. And the officer's judgment chose a 10-year-old black boy standing quietly at a bench. Judge Carter, "On what probable cause, officer, did you detain my grandson?" Officer Pace, "He wasn't being detained. We were having a voluntary conversation." Judge Carter, "You asked him to open his bag." Officer Pace, "I asked him to cooperate with." Judge Carter, "You asked him to open his bag. He declined. You then told him that declining would result in being taken to the security office. You asked him to move to a different location away from bystanders. He declined. During this entire period, if Marcus had simply turned and walked away from you, would you have allowed him to leave?" 3 seconds of silence again. Judge Carter, "Officer, I need you to answer that question, because the answer determines whether this was a voluntary conversation or a detention, and a detention requires probable cause. I want to know if you had probable cause." Officer Pace, "I was responding to a reported theft." Judge Carter, "A vague report, with a description that matches a significant portion of the people in this building. No witness identification, no surveillance footage of my grandson, no observable behavior indicating criminal activity. My grandson was standing at a bench, waiting. He has been coming to this mall with me every Saturday for 5 years. He was doing exactly what he always does, waiting for me while I browse the bookstore. Tell me, officer, which element of that constitutes probable cause? Or, if we are working with the lower standard, which element constitutes reasonable articulable suspicion? Because I spent 31 years on the federal bench, applying both of those standards to real cases involving real people. I know what they require. This does not meet either one." The corridor is very, very quiet now. Pace opens his mouth. "Close it. Open it again." Officer Pace, "With respect, sir, I was using my experience and judgment." Judge Carter, "Your judgment, officer, told you that a 10-year-old boy standing at a bench waiting for his grandfather was the most likely suspect in a wallet theft based on a description of young, dark hoodie. I am asking you, professionally and specifically, to walk me through the facts that led to that judgment. Not the description. The facts. The observable, articulable facts about my grandson's behavior that directed your attention to him specifically among the many other people in this corridor who also matched that description." Silence. The honest answer, the answer that lives in the space between the question and the silence, is that there were no such facts. There was a description and there was a child, and there was an assumption that lived in the gap between them, Assumption built from 14 years of unchallenged pattern recognition, and the pattern, when you remove the professional language and look at it plainly, is a pattern of deciding that a black child in a hoodie in a public space is the most likely candidate when something goes wrong. Pace doesn't say this. He cannot say it. He may not even fully know it. But Judge Carter has just made it visible, to Pace, to the crowd, to the woman recording, to the retired school teacher who has now moved close enough to hear everything, and to the body cam that is capturing all of it and will continue to capture it and will not let it be unsaid. Judge Carter, I did not think so. The badge is not a license to assume. It is a trust extended by the public to enforce the law impartially. When that trust is used to enforce assumption instead, it is not just broken, it is weaponized. At 15 hours 44 minutes and 58 seconds, a mall security guard named Thomas Park approaches from the north end of Corridor 7. He is 28 years old, 8 months on the job, and he is holding his radio in a way that suggests he would rather be holding literally anything else right now. His expression is the specific expression of a person delivering information they know is going to land badly in front of an audience that has grown to approximately 20 people. Park, Officer Pace. Update on the wallet report. Pace turns. Park, the victim found it. It was on the counter at the cafe on level 2. He set it down when he was waiting for his order and didn't notice. It was behind the napkin dispenser. The cashier found it about 10 minutes after the call came in. The victim just confirmed it's his. Silence. Not a dramatic silence. A heavy one. The specific heaviness of a fact landing in a space where an accusation used to be. The wallet was on a cafe counter. The victim left it there himself. It was never stolen. There was never a theft. There was a man who forgot where he put his wallet, filed a theft report, and described people he had vaguely noticed near him, without being able to identify anyone specifically. And in the 14 minutes between that report and this moment, a child was accused, interrogated, pressured, and told in plain language that his type was the problem. 14 minutes. Park delivers the update. He does not make eye contact with anyone. He retreats north. His footsteps are very quick. Officer Pace stands with this information. The body cam sees what he sees. The judge, the boy, the crowd, all of it. And it captures something in the audio that is easy to miss if you aren't listening for it. A change in the officer's breathing. The small sound of a man whose scaffolding has just lost its foundation. Officer Pace, I was responding to a report in good faith. The report indicated. Judge Carter, the report indicated that a wallet was missing. It did not indicate who took it. Your decision about who to approach and how to approach them was not the report's decision. It was yours. And good faith is a standard I applied for 31 years on the bench, officer. Good faith means more than reacting to a stimulus. It means the reaction is proportionate, is grounded in evidence, and does not rely on assumptions that would not survive scrutiny. Does what you did today survive scrutiny? Pace says nothing. Judge Carter, I want to address something else. You said to my grandson, and it is on your body cam and on at least one bystander recording, that it is funny how it's always the same type when something goes missing. I need you to hear me clearly. That statement is not policing. That statement is prejudice. It is prejudice in a uniform, operating under the cover of law enforcement authority, directed at a 10-year-old child who was doing nothing wrong. That statement alone, separate from everything else that occurred today, is the basis for a formal complaint. And I will be filing one before this day is over. Marcus has not said a word since his grandfather arrived. He stands next to the judge with his hand inside his grandfather's, the big hand, the steady one, the one that has never let go. And he watches Officer Pace with an expression that is not anger and not triumph and not fear. It is the expression of a child absorbing something enormous and trying to decide what to do with it, trying to understand it, trying to fit it into the world his grandfather has been building for him, a world where the law is real and matters and applies to everyone, and finding the fit difficult. Because the world on paper and the world on this corridor floor are not quite the same world, and now he knows it with his whole body, not just his mind. A wrong acknowledged is not justice. Justice is ensuring the wrong cannot be repeated with impunity. The first requires a voice. The second requires a system. Today in Corridor 7, both showed up. At 15 hours 47 minutes and 31 seconds, 2 more people arrive in Corridor 7. The first is Henry Marsh, the mall security supervisor, who has been watching from a distance and has decided that his presence is now required. He arrives with the energy of a man, hoping to de-escalate a situation that has already been resolved by someone far better qualified than him. The second is Officer Delgado, Pace's senior partner, 42 years old, 19 years on the force, who was 2 corridors over when the radio traffic shifted and told him something was happening that he needed to be part of. Delgado reads the room in approximately 4 seconds. He has been reading rooms for 19 years. He looks at Pace, at the judge, at the crowd, at the boy's hand in the judge's hand, and his expression settles into something careful and specific. The expression of a man calculating what has already happened, and what he is responsible for what comes next. Marsh, I want to, on behalf of the mall, I want to apologize for any disruption to your Saturday. We take incidents like, Judge Carter, with respect, Mr. Marsh, the mall security did its job correctly. You received a report, you called it in per protocol, and when the situation resolved, your officer delivered the update promptly. The mall is not the issue here. He turns back to Pace. Delgado watches. Judge Carter, officer, what I said I intend to do, I intend to do. I will be filing a formal complaint with your department today. I will be providing the complaint to the Civilian Oversight Board. I will be submitting the documentation, including what I expect to find in the bodycam footage and what has already been captured on bystander recording, to federal authorities if the complaint is not addressed through the appropriate process. I want you to understand that I am not doing this out of anger. I am doing it because this, what you did today, in this corridor, to this child, is precisely what accountability mechanisms exist to address. And I believe in those mechanisms. I have spent my career building them. I am not going to stop believing in them, because it is inconvenient at this particular moment. Officer Delgado, carefully. Sir, are you Raymond Carter? Judge Raymond Carter? Judge Carter turns. Look at Delgado, with the same measuring attention. Judge Carter, I am. Officer Delgado, I appeared before you. Eastern District, 2019. The Hargrove case. A beat. The judge's expression does not shift into recognition or warmth, or any softening that might suggest the moment has changed. It stays exactly where it has been. Judge Carter, then you know, Officer Delgado, that when I say I am going to do something, I do it. And you know that the standard I hold myself to is the same standard I held every person who came before my bench. Equal application of the law. No exceptions, including this one. Delgado nods. Once, he puts one hand briefly on Pace's arm. Not aggressive, not consoling. The specific touch of a senior officer indicating that the junior officer needs to stop talking and start thinking. Pace says nothing. He has run out of positions to take. The probable cause question was unanswerable. The voluntary conversation designation was demolished. The good faith argument evaporated with the wallet. And the same type statement is on camera and will not come off. The crowd has not entirely dispersed. Cheryl is still recording. James Whitfield is still there, shopping bag in hand, present in the way he has been present this entire time, as witness, as counterweight, as a member of the public exercising the oldest form of accountability available to citizens before any oversight board was ever invented. America is watching. It always watches. From mall corridors and phone cameras, and the windows of passing cars. It watches and it watches. And the question that has always been the question, the one that this country has been wrestling with since its founding, is what it does with what it sees. 15 hours 52 minutes and 14 seconds. The crowd has thinned. Pace has been led 20 feet to the north by Delgado, who is speaking to him in a low voice with his back to the remaining bystanders. Marsh has retreated to make a phone call that he does not appear to be enjoying. The corridor has returned to something approaching normal noise. The escalator, the shops, the ordinary Saturday hum. But different. Changed. The way a room is different after something true has been said in it. Judge Carter kneels down. One knee on the polished tile of Corridor 7. The retired chief judge of the Eastern Federal District kneels down to be at eye level with his grandson, because his grandson is 10 years old and the conversation they are about to have matters more than his dignity or his suit or the 20 people who are still watching from various distances. Judge Carter, you okay? Marcus considers this the way he considers things that matter. Seriously, from the inside, not performing an answer but finding one. Marcus, I stayed calm. Judge Carter, you did. I'm proud of you. Marcus, I didn't open the bag. Judge Carter, you were right not to. Marcus, he kept saying I matched the description. Judge Carter, I know. Marcus, was the description me? The question, the real question, not the legal one. Marcus understands the legal one, or at least the outline of it. The human one, the 10-year-old one. Was the description me, or was I the person the description was used to find? Judge Carter, the description was young, dark hoodie. That describes 40 or 50 people in this building today. He chose you. That choice was not about the description. Marcus, why did he choose me? The grandfather looks at his grandson for a long moment. This is the moment that every black grandfather who has lived in America long enough eventually reaches with a grandchild. The moment where honesty and protection pull in opposite directions, and you have to find the narrow road between them. The one where you tell the truth without making the truth into a sentence that the child will carry like a weight rather than carry like a tool. Judge Carter. Because sometimes people see what they expect to see instead of what's actually in front of them. When someone has authority, a badge, a title, a position, and they use that authority based on expectation instead of evidence, they have broken something. They've broken the most important promise this country makes. Marcus. What promise? Judge Carter. That you are innocent until proven guilty. That the law protects everyone equally. That no one, no officer, no official, no person with a badge gets to decide you're guilty before they have evidence. That promise is in the Constitution. I spent 31 years trying to make sure it was kept. Today, in this corridor, it wasn't. And I'm going to make sure that goes on record. Marcus. Will anything happen to him? Judge Carter. That depends on the system. It depends on whether the people inside the system do their jobs. I believe most of them will. But believing in the system doesn't mean being naive about it. It means holding it accountable when it fails. Which is what I'm going to do. Marcus. Quietly. It doesn't feel like the system worked today. Judge Carter. Pause. No. Today the system failed. You, a child who did nothing wrong, were questioned, pressured, and spoken to in a way that was wrong. That is a system failure. But here's what I need you to hold on to. You used the system correctly. You stayed calm. You knew your rights. You didn't surrender what you didn't have to surrender. And now the system is going to have to answer for what it did. That's how it's supposed to work. Imperfectly, slowly, with pressure from people who refuse to let it off the hook. That's the work. It's not finished. It never completely finishes. But it moves. Marcus absorbs this. He nods slowly. The grandfather stands. He takes the paper bag from under his arm and holds it out. Judge Carter. I found it. The telescope book. Marcus takes the bag. He holds it by the handles without looking inside. Then he looks inside. His face changes. Not dramatically, not suddenly, but in the small and complete way that a child's face changes when something good arrives inside a hard day and they let themselves feel both things at once. Marcus. It's the James Webb one. Judge Carter. Thought so. They walked toward the exit. The tall man in the dark suit and the boy in the gray hoodie. Not hurrying, not performing. Moving at the same steady pace the judge has moved at for 67 years. The pace of a man who knows where he is going, who trusts that he will arrive, and who has decided that the way you walk through the world matters as much as where you end up. Cheryl lowers her phone. James Whitfield watches them go. He stands there a moment after they've turned the corner, holding his shopping bag. Then he nods to himself, once, the way a man nods when he has witnessed something he wants to remember accurately. Then he walks on. In Corridor 7 of a shopping mall in America, on a Saturday afternoon in May 2026, something happened that happens every day in 1,000 versions, in 1,000 places across this country. And something else happened that does not always happen. Someone who knew the law showed up. Someone who had spent a lifetime building the framework of accountability arrived at exactly the moment the framework was needed. And it held. Imperfectly, painfully, with work still remaining. But it held. We teach our children to respect the law. The law must also be taught to respect them. That teaching is not finished. It requires every generation to take it up. Today, in a shopping mall corridor, a retired judge handed that lesson to his grandson. Not in a classroom, not from a book, but in the only place where it truly counts, the real world, in real time, at the actual cost of a real Saturday afternoon. The Fourth Amendment and probable cause. The Fourth Amendment to the United States Constitution reads, "The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects, against unreasonable searches and seizures, shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue, but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched, and the persons or things to be seized." Probable cause is a legal standard that requires specific, articulable facts, not suspicion, not assumption, not pattern recognition untethered from specific evidence, that would lead a reasonable person to believe a crime has been committed and that the individual in question committed it. A description of young dark hoodie that could apply to dozens of people in the immediate vicinity does not establish probable cause for any specific individual. This is not a matter of legal interpretation. It is settled law. Terry v. Ohio, and reasonable suspicion. In Terry v. Ohio, 1968, the Supreme Court established that officers may briefly detain a person based on a lesser standard than probable cause, reasonable articulable suspicion, but only when the officer can point to specific facts about the person's behavior, not their appearance alone, that suggest criminal activity. The court specifically warned against using this authority as cover for stops based on race or generalized suspicion. Terry stops have been used and misused for decades. Marcus's case is a textbook example of the misuse, a vague description applied to a specific individual based not on his behavior but on his appearance, with no articulable behavioral facts offered to justify the selection. The Equal Protection Clause and racial profiling. The 14th Amendment guarantees equal protection under the law to all persons within the United States. Using race as a primary factor in law enforcement decisions, which is what the phrase "always the same type" reveals, violates this guarantee. Racial profiling has been documented as not only legally problematic, but practically counterproductive. It damages community trust in law enforcement, reduces cooperation with police on actual crimes, and generates investigative dead ends while actual perpetrators remain unidentified. Multiple federal court decisions, Department of Justice guidelines, and state laws prohibit it. It continues because prohibition without accountability is not enforcement. Why accountability mechanisms exist? Internal affairs divisions, civilian oversight boards, body camera requirements, and federal consent decrees over police departments all exist because the legal community, including judges like Raymond Carter, recognize that the power to enforce the law is also the power to violate it, and that without independent accountability structures, violation is not an exception. It is an inevitability. Officer Pace's 3 prior complaints, each reviewed, each closed without formal discipline, are not irrelevant background. They are a pattern. Accountability mechanisms are supposed to catch patterns before they become Corridor 7. They failed in his case. The formal complaint Judge Carter filed that afternoon was designed to ensure that the mechanism had another chance. The Constitution is a living promise made to every person standing on American soil. Its fulfillment requires not just its existence, but its active defense, by citizens who know it, by lawyers who argue it, by judges who apply it, and by grandfathers who teach it to 10-year-old boys on Saturday afternoons in shopping malls. Slow pullback from the exit doors. Marcus and his grandfather have walked through. The mall returns to Saturday. Families moving. Shopping bags rustling. The escalator. The music from a clothing store. Normal America reassembling itself around a space where something important just happened. Somewhere in this country right now, at this exact moment, while you are watching this, a version of this is happening. A child is standing somewhere being seen as something they are not. A parent or grandparent is not there yet. The clock is running. The assumption is already in motion. And somewhere else in this country, in a bookstore, a library, a courthouse, a classroom, there is someone who knows the law, who has spent a life learning it and applying it and defending it, who understands that the Constitution is not a historical document. It is a living instruction set for how power must be constrained so that every person can stand in a public space without being required to prove their innocence before any evidence of guilt exists. Marcus Carter went home that Saturday with a book about telescopes. He read it cover to cover by Sunday evening. He told his grandfather that the farthest galaxy the Webb telescope had ever imaged was 32 billion light-years away. That light left it before the Earth existed, and we are only now seeing it arrive. His grandfather said, "Think about that. Think about how long light travels to be seen, and then think about what it means to finally be seen." Marcus thought about it. He's still thinking about it. That's what grandfathers are for. Not just to show up in Corridor 7, though God knows, we need them there, but to give the child something to think about afterward. Something that lasts. Something that turns a hard Saturday into a lesson that travels farther than 32 billion light-years. In America, we teach our children to respect the law. The law must also be taught to respect them. That teaching is not finished. It requires every generation. It requires every one of us. Drop your state in the comments. Let's see how far this travels.